The number one area where we were needing something, where we didn't have something already, was out in the Rockville area. So we started looking out there to begin with. Well, we started looking for some places there, and we even had an individual who was willing to give us land out there to build a station on. Well, I'm not ashamed of it, but I know for a fact where I live, we have at least one dirt to every two rock. And finding the exact spot of where you wanted to build the building was tough. And we found two good places where we thought we had a place for a fire station out there that was going to be given to us. Couldn't find the proper place that had the soils to use it. We couldn't
They call it Rockville, right?
Do what?
That's why they call it Rockville.
That's why it's called Rockville. And that's exactly what the problem was. We could not build out there. So as we went further, we found another place. And it happened to be on the school property there at the elementary school. So we were looking at that at the time, and we thought maybe we could develop from there. And we had these other places that were suggested within that study that come through the University of Tennessee and TDEC. So as we looked at those, we kept looking at, okay, how do you do this? How do you pay for them? How do you get these going? How do you develop what a fire station needs to look like, and what else are we needing? And then all of a sudden something possible come up a little bit later. We had the opportunity to apply for a different grant that would pay for these stations and what we wanted to do. But what it did, it caused us to think outside of the box. It made us think outside of what else could we do as far as a county to provide even more than just a fire station. To apply for a brick grant, we had to come up with the best idea. Not only the best idea in the county, the best idea in the state of Tennessee, but the best idea in the country for the brick grant. So it made us think a whole lot of what we wanted these stations to do, and what we decided to do, we're not building fire stations, we're building public safety buildings. And what these would be buildings that would be important to the entire community. They would not only have a place for the fire station, they would also be a place for the ambulance service. And then they'd also be an office for the sheriff's department, for a deputy to be able to pull in, to work his records, to make a stop, to eat his supper or whatever, but yet he'd also be in communication, where these stations would be also a place, or a public safety building, would have communications within them. And then we also thought a little bit further outside of the box. I don't know if you remember the tornado that hit Putnam County at the same time, back in March of last year. They were caught in situations where they couldn't communicate. They were caught in situations of how do you get the fire department, how do you get the ambulances up there and whatever. We got thinking about, okay, wonder if we made these public safety buildings a source where they would be tornado proof and safe. So we put a tornado room in there, a safe room, for a day room as well as for the staff to stay. We also would put tornado sirens on these public safety buildings. We also did a lot of other different creative ideas with them. So we created these buildings for this grant. And what we come up with is that we had, I think, probably one of the best ideas that you would want to do. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight, is these public safety buildings.